Okay, so this is from our section for 4.6a. Now we're dealing with factoring trinomials. So still factoring, still similar to what we did for 4.5, but these are a special kind. A trinomial, remember, is something with 3 terms. So in general, we're going to be dealing with the quadratic kind where it's ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, so that's the general form of it. A, b, and c would be some type of number, and then x squared and x would have to be there for this to be considered a quadratic trinomial. Okay, so for these, there's kind of something special that you're going to do to be able to factor this. The textbook talks about trial and error, but usually I don't really use that. So if you want to look at the book and kind of go by what that has, to me, what I'm going to do on this paper is a little bit easier. What we need to do is, first off, we need to do what we did for 4.5. So if there is any common factors between these 3 terms, you have to pull them out. So you have to factor out, our first step, factor out our GCF, greatest common factor. So if they have a number in common that needs to be divided out, you need to divide it out and put it out in the front, like we did on the last section. Then next, you'll use the method to be able to factor this out. It goes by the numbers that are here. For now, we're going to be dealing with ones where A is equal to 1. So we're not going to have anything else in front of here. A is just going to be 1. There won't be a number there. That's just for this section. When we get to B, they'll have numbers that are different from 1, and you'll see what happens after that. So where A is 1, you're looking for 2 numbers. So we need to find 2 numbers that multiply to get C and add up to get B, okay, the middle number. So factors are 2 numbers that multiply to get C that are also going to add up to get B. So 2 of the same numbers that are going to do both of these things. So for example, if we have something like, let's say, this is our first one. We have x squared plus 13x plus 40. We need to find 2 numbers that are going to multiply to 40 that are also going to add to 13, and then we'll be able to factor this out, okay? The way that this factors out is that we're taking it and we're putting it into parentheses where we're going to have whatever the variable is, x plus some number times x plus some other number, okay, the other factor. So that's what we're trying to do right here. So in order to do that, you need to go by the 40 first, find the factors of that, and then look through those and see which ones are going to add up to 13. Both of these are positive right now, so of course either 2 negatives or 2 positives are going to multiply to get that positive, but this is positive, so we don't need to worry about negatives right now. So if you need to, you can list all of the factors of 40. So 40 factors out into different numbers, like in this case, we know 1 times 40 is 40, but 1 plus 40 is 41, it's not 13. So you can keep going from there. Like you can do 2 times 20 is 40, but 2 plus 20 is not 13. 4 times 10 is 40. 4 plus 10 is 14, not 13. 5 times 8 is 40, and 5 plus 8 is 13, so that would be the one you'd want to use. This, if we'd add that together, would equal out to 13. So this is our 1 right here. Positive 5 and positive 8. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this, and we're changing it into the factored form of it, so it's going to look like this now, where you're going to have x plus the first factor if it's positive, x plus the second factor if it's positive. The order of this part doesn't matter. It could be x plus 8, x plus 5. This is our factored form of this. So that's essentially what we're doing. We're trying to, again, go backwards into what we would have got before we multiplied. If we take x and multiply it back out, you'll come back with this. X times x is x squared. X times 8 is 8x. 5 times x is 13x. After we add that together, and then 5 times 8 would be 40. So it goes back to the same thing. That's what we're doing right here. Okay, so let's involve a little bit with some negatives. If we have, let's say x squared plus 5x minus 14. So now we're looking for factors of negative 14 that add to 5. So this time the 14 is negative. We need to include that when we're looking for our factors. So negative 14 right here. We need to find two factors that are going to still add to 5, but also multiply to negative 14. So in other words, if this is a positive in the middle, the bigger factor is going to have to be positive. So one number is going to have to be negative, one number is going to have to be positive to multiply times that negative. The bigger number also have to be positive to keep this positive. So I'm going to make all of these smaller numbers negative. So like negative 1 times 14 is negative 14, but that doesn't work. Negative 2 times 7 is 14. Negative 2 plus 7 is positive 5. So that's the one that works. So we want to use this one to factor it out. We're going to do the same thing we did up here, but now it's going to be x minus 2 and x plus 7. Okay. Let's see this one, so 3. Let's say they're both negative, so x squared minus 4x minus 21. So same situation, we still need to find factors of this number that are going to add to this one, but now it's a negative 4. So see how the smaller number was negative, that's why we end up with a positive number. So now we need to make our bigger factor negative to be able to get up to that negative number. So we're going to find factors of negative 21, so that's a positive and a negative number. In this case, we do the smaller number positive, so we'd have 1 times negative 21. That doesn't work. That's going to be negative 20. We'd have 3 times negative 7. 3 times negative 7 is negative 21. 3 plus negative 7 is also negative 4, so that's the one we'd want. We're going to use this one, factor it out with the same way, use the x's, so x plus 3 times x minus 7. And again, the order of this doesn't matter. You could have x minus 7 first and x plus 3 after. So the same thing. So this would be our factored form of this. That's what they're asking for. You'd put in this entire thing, the parentheses and everything. Okay, let's see. We have this one. X squared minus 8x plus 12. So now we have a positive 12 right here, and we're trying to get a negative 8. Well, remember, 2 positives multiply to get a positive, and 2 negatives multiply to be a positive. So you can get this negative by using 2 negative factors, because it'll still give us a positive 12. Like, negative 1 times negative 12 is still positive 12. Okay, but that doesn't add up to negative 8, so that's not the ones we want. Negative 2 times negative 6 is positive 12. Negative 2 plus negative 6 is also negative 8, so that's the one we'd want to use. Okay, so we'd have these as our factors, so it'd be x minus 2 times x minus 6. And then that would be our factor form of that one. Okay, then the last kind of thing that they have dealing with this would be our, let's see, stuff that might have factors at the beginning. So if we have 2x squared plus 24x plus 64. Okay, so this time the number in front isn't a 1, but we can, in these cases, sometimes they'll have a greatest common factor, so it'll still go back to the ones we just did. Remember in the first section, if they have a number that divides out with all of them, you need to divide it out. So 2, 24, and 64 all divide out by 2, so that would be our first step we'd have to do. So divide everything by 2. Okay, that way we'd take the 2 and put it out in the front like we've done in the past. So whatever number's at the bottom comes out in front, and then leave what we have left in the parentheses. So these 2's we canceled out to leave x squared. 24 divided by 2 is 12, so 12x would go there. And then 64 divided by 2 is 32, so plus 32 would go there. So once you have the number in front factored out, if it does factor out, you would be able to factor this like normal now. Okay, so this factors out like the ones we just did for 1 through 4. Factors of 32 that add to 12. This 2 in front is just going to come down with the answer. So you'll just have that out in the front. So let's find factors of 32 now. So we could use, so 1 times 32 is 32, but that doesn't add up to 12. 2 times 16, still not it. 4 times 8, 4 times 8 is 32, and 4 times plus 8 is 12, so that would be the one we'd want to use. So 2 stays out in the front, and then you'll make this into our 2 parentheses like we did for 1 through 4. So x plus 4 times x plus 8. Okay, so that goes with any of the ones that have numbers in front like that. We could have something similar like 2x squared plus 10x minus 28. It doesn't matter that they're negative. All of these still divide out by 2. So we can still do that. Bring the 2 out in the front. That'd be x squared plus 5x minus our 14. Then we'd find factors of negative 14 like we did on 1 through 4. So in this case, you don't necessarily have to list them all. If you know the one right away, you can use it. We know that negative 14 factors out into 1 and 14. Well, in this case, negative 1, 14, or negative 2 and positive 7. That would be the one already. That's 5. We did that one earlier. So 2 times x minus 2, and then x plus 7. Okay, and then last thing, you may come across some that look like this: x squared plus 36x plus 14. Okay, 14 is our number we have to find factors of. Well, if you look for the factors of 14 in this case, that'd be 1 and 14. That's not 36. 2 and 7, also not 36. Well, there's no more factors of 14. So they won't all be factorable. There is a button on there that's going to say not factorable. That's what you would want to click on. Okay, neither one of these would work. A lot of times if the number is a lot smaller than the middle number, it won't have any factors. You can't get that much larger. The highest number you can really get to from this case is 15. 1 plus 14 is 15. So 36 is way too big. You would click on not factorable. Okay, and then that's the gist of our homework assignment for 4.6a.